Hello, everyone. We are so glad to have all of you join us today. My name is Fatima Hussain, and I am the psychologist and research analyst at uExcelerate. I will be hosting and moderating today's session. In our conversations with organizations, we have realized that building coaching cultures has become an essential component of healthy organizations. Yet many people hesitate to take that initiative because the process of building a coaching culture can seem intimidating and overwhelming. Many organizations spend a lot of time wondering whether building an internal coaching culture is even worth it to begin with. Our session today is a uExcelerate roundtable discussion on the topic of why you should consider building a coaching culture in your organization with some of the most experienced people in the industry to hopefully give you some insights and clarity. So I'm going to start with a little bit of housekeeping. Today's session will last 90 minutes. The first 75 minutes is going to be moderated conversation with our panelists, and the final 15 minutes is going to be a question and answer session with our audience. So if you have any questions for the panel during the session, then please leave them in the question and answer box, and we will put those questions to the panelists in the last 15 minutes. So before we get started with our session, we are very curious to know what you hope to learn and understand from this session. So you should see a poll pop up on your screen right now. We would love to know what you're hoping to learn from this session.
All right, so the poll will be up right now.
So
see the poll right now. Yeah.
So we would like to know whether you would like to learn more from Magdalena's insights on trends in building coaching cultures, whether you're here for the industry experts speaking about their initiatives in building coaching cultures, the benefits of building a coaching culture, the challenges faced and methods to overcome them, or all of the above.
The responses have started coming in. Just wait for another 15 seconds. Yeah. Great. So I'll just share the results. It says,
okay.
Please hold the above. Sure. Please go ahead.
Good to know. Thank you, everyone. So let's get started with the session. I am going to start by introducing our esteemed panelists who we are very excited to have join us today because of the experience and knowledge that they bring to this session. So let me first introduce our chief guest, who I am very excited to introduce, Magdalena Mook. Please give me a second while I share my screen. Okay. Magdalena Mook brings experience in fundraising, coaching, consulting, and association management. Currently, she offers her vision and strategic direction as the CEO of the International Coaching Federation, a body with over 45,000 coaches under its belt. She acts as a partner to the ICF's Global Board of Directors and has been doing so since 2005. Hi, Magdalena. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to you. We are so excited to have you as a part of our panel. Please tell the audience a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you so much, Fatima. And it's a great pleasure and a privilege of meeting everybody today. Something that you will not find necessarily in my bio is that I am a native of Poland. I've been residing in the United States for long enough, but also that I am an economist by trade. So hearing all about how organizations are reaching their economic goals as well as social progress goals with coaching is something of a great passion for me. And the last little thing is that I had good fortune of visiting India several times, and I wish that we could be in person today rather than on the screen. But thank you again so much for inviting me and for bringing up this extremely important and very timely topic to the conversation.
Thank you, Magdalena. We're excited to hear your views. Moving on, I would like to introduce our next panelist, Debashish Ghosh. Debashish is a senior human resource professional with over 18 years of experience in managing end-to-end functions in HR. He is the vice president and country HR head at Berkadia, a Berkshire Hathaway and Jefferies Financial Group company. Hi, Debashish, and welcome to our session today. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you, Fatima, and thank you for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you, uExcelerate, for having me. And I have come here to learn as much as I can share. What's more about me is probably the fact that I have been a product of good coach, some serious coaching and mentoring myself. That is why I firmly believe in the culture of coaching and how coaching will help everybody in the organization to develop. My own coaching journey as an individual started about 3 to 4 years back, which led to my certification, obviously some improvement in my areas of how I do coaching myself. And that, I believe, has really helped me to do my job well and really helped me to drive the culture of coaching in my organization that I worked with. So again, very happy to be here and happy to learn and share with everyone.
Thank you, Devashish. We're excited to have you. Moving on to our third panelist, we have Ritu Malhotra. Ritu has been a part of Canon for over 16 years. Now, as the director of the Human Resource Development Academy, she is responsible for organization development and capability development for the Canon India staff, Canon channel partners, and she also supports development of other Canon group companies in the Southeast Asia region. Hi, Ritu, a very warm welcome to you. Please tell the audience a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you, Fatima, and hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and to be interacting with all of you. So I've been in an exciting field of HR for about 24 years in both CHRO as well as CLO roles. And one of the most, I would say, path-changing events that happened in my life was coaching some 10 years back. And it was really painful because change is never easy. And it was also the most relevant thing that happened to me professionally. So I'll be happy to share my own experience as a coachee, as a facilitator of creating an internal coaching culture in Canon. And I hope to listen from all of you and learn from all of you. Thank you, Fatima.
Thank you, Ritu. We're excited to hear that too. Our fourth panelist is Gauri Bhanje. Gauri is the head of learning and organization development at CDK Global. She has 17 years of experience in learning and organization development and has led roles across America, UK, EMEA on executive coaching-based leadership development in the banking, IT, and pharma space. Hi, Gauri. We're very excited to hear from you. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Thank you, Fatima, and thank you, everyone. I think a great opportunity at hand. Like everyone else said, I think I'm equally excited to learn and take back some tangible takeaways from this conversation today. So I think, the bio says it all, but something that it doesn't say is that I'm extremely passionate about analytics and analytics associated with various aspects in the human resource division. Today, I'm going to be also talking to the group more about, what kind of return on investment can we as learning professionals or HR professionals share with our business and thereby really make a very, very powerful impact. The impact is made, but I think more about articulation of the impact is what I will be talking to you about. And some of the yellow belt projects that I have completed in around leadership development. So that's something that I'm going to be talking about. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Gauri. Return on investment is such an important topic in this field, so we're excited to hear on that. And our fifth panelist is Shatrunjay Krishna, Group Head of Organization Design and L&D at GMR Group. Shatrunjay has proven expertise in business leadership strategy, organization design, strategic rewards, operations, among many others. Welcome to our panel, Shatrunjay. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thanks, Fatima, and thanks uExcelerate for creating such a wonderful forum. As others were saying, very good to be part of this forum. And I read my CV, and I think what I can say is that my background is essentially reward and productivity. So I started my HR career in reward and productivity, and then I moved into leadership development and coaching with my consulting stint of Hewitt, Towers, and Conferi, a group in the end. And what I really see is that if you link all the part of HR, they are organic whole, and productivity and coaching and leadership, they are so well integrated that you will miss the bigger picture if you don't see coaching as a part of the org and productivity. So that's where I come from. and very excited to hear from everybody on this group, where their perspectives. So since I keep repeating that HR is an organic whole, and in that, you can come from different, angle, but essentially you will hit what I call, employee engagement and productivity and, effectiveness. So that is where, we would like to learn from, everybody here in this group. Very excited to be part of that. And thank you, Fatima.
Thank you, Shatranjay. And thank you to all our panelists for being here today and giving us your time. We're very excited to hear from you. So to get started, I would like to invite Magdalena to give us her views on the trends. And whatever she has prepared. We're very excited. Magdalena, the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much. And, it's quite a tall order to say everything that I would love to say in 15 minutes, but I will certainly try. And I know that my colleagues on the panel will give the audience very specific examples, which I think always is something, frankly, more exciting and more inspiring necessarily than a PowerPoint. But let's start with the PowerPoint. Let me share my screen. Can you share this? Can you see this screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. So I was asked to talk today a little bit about why build coaching cultures. What is it about coaching in organizations? Many of you may know that ICF was created in 1995. And at that point, of course, I think more people were familiar with individuals receiving coaching services, individuals engaging in coaching relationships. But as coaching became more prominent, better understood, and more accessible, we started seeing a trend of organizations starting looking into coaching in a very different way. Again, not new news about perhaps the very top level officials in the organizations using coaching at first, but then it was like, well, maybe this is too much to expect that one individual can change the trajectory of the entire organization and bring about results that were desired for that organization. So in 2014, ICF partnered with Human Capital Institute, or HCI, to examine what is really happening in organizations. So we started with our benchmarking study on building a coaching culture. And as we conducted that study, we started learning more and more about different aspects of what coaching cultures in fact bring about to organizations. So our next study, 2015, we went a little deeper to understand why organizations with coaching cultures enjoy much increased employee engagement. That was the finding in our 2014 study. In the 15, with the greater employee engagement, we also found that those organizations realized much better financial results in comparison to organizations of similar size and in similar sectors. Our next study in 2016 pointed into looking about managers and leaders using coaching skills and how they fit into the overarching strategy of building coaching cultures. We learned that more and more managers and leaders were receiving training in coaching skills, as different kind of leadership was needed and was wanted. So we started looking into what does it take to really prepare managers and leaders to offer coaching approach to their management style and leadership style, and also how it benefits the entire organization. Not a secret that the workforce is getting younger and younger every day. And by 2025, I think millennials will represent the greatest percentage of workforce worldwide. So in 2017, we actually looked into building coaching cultures with millennial leaders. That study looked into having millennial leaders offering coaching services or coaching approach, but it also looked into how millennials are reacting to and what is their attitude towards coaching. To find that younger leaders are very aware of coaching, are very willing to receive coaching, and in fact, more and more they are requesting coaching as part of their overall benefits package. And finally, in 2018, we conducted a study on the intersection between coaching cultures, and change management in organizations. A very exciting study that pointed that coaching is one of the greatest accelerator and the greatest sustainability tool for change initiatives in organizations. All those studies are available at ICF website, coachingfederation.org, under research. There is a special icon for just building coaching cultures on our website, so you can certainly find a lot of the information on that website. We also engaged in that studies because we started noticing that organization with a strong coaching culture were really leading the force. They were distinguishing themselves from other organizations, and that they were, we already said that, more engaged employees, greater financial results, but also greater retention, less absenteeism, better success with change initiatives. So that's why, along with HCI, we decided that it was extremely important to understand, how do we define strong coaching cultures? What are the elements of that culture that need to be achieved in order for the organization to self-identify or be identified as one with strong coaching culture? As you see on this slide, there are 6 elements that we identified as the index, if you will, for coaching cultures in organizations. And they are that employees value coaching. It's not a secret for many that when coaching was first introduced in organizations in a greater scale, people tended to think about coaching as remedial, maybe even punitive. In other words, if there is a problem, there is a coach around. Currently, as we said, coaching is considered a benefit. Coaching is considered a sign of organization investing in their workforce, and often offered to individuals throughout the entire enterprise, from C-suite to perhaps onboarding new employees. The second element of a strong coaching culture, or this index, is that senior executives value coaching. Again, not the secret for many initiatives, including coaching, is that senior executive sponsorship of coaching and them believing in coaching, utilizing coaching, is an indicator of a success of the initiative. What is super exciting is this number 3, and I know we're going to be talking more about it today at the panel and hopefully in the Q&A portion, is that managers and leaders, internal coaches and external coaches have to be well trained to offer their services. They need to receive coach-specific training, they need to get accredited, and they need to remain very current in the knowledge of the coaching field in order to be a great resource to their colleagues and coworkers. The fourth element of the index is that coaching needs to be not nice to have, but must have. And that's often reflected in the dedicated budget line in a budget of the organization specifically for coaching. It is not to be coupled together with all other training and development budgets, because one of our studies, the one on change management, indicated that still classroom training is what's being offered most, and it's the least effective, while one-on-one or team coaching and group coaching is something that has the greatest impact, again, for the success and sustainability of change initiatives. Number 5, and I just touched upon it, is that employees have an equal opportunity to receive coaching from a professional coach. That means that coaching is not reserved for top level executives alone, not only perhaps for high potentials, but if they wish to be coached, they will have that opportunity. And again, that's going to point into super great importance of developing a cadre of internal coaches within organizations that can be available to their colleagues and peers. And finally, as we talked a little bit in number 3, the organization leverages 3 coaching modalities, that is utilizing external coaches, utilizing the cadre of internal coaches, and also training managers and leaders in coaching skills. So that what really points into creating the culture of coaching within the organization. In that survey that we did with HCI, at that point, 15% of respondents, and we had over 400 large and smaller organizations, corporations responding to the survey, about 15% responded that they believed they did have strong coaching culture, and that was defined by meeting at least 5 out of these 6 elements of strong coaching cultures. I know that this is a busy slide, but of course you have access to those slides, and if you want to dissect it later, it's really quite powerful, because as you can see by this kind of orange bar, these are organizations with strong coaching cultures, while all others are blue. The results from organizations with strong coaching cultures more than justify the expenditure on having those cultures and having coaching and coaches available. As you can see, from strategic change to customer satisfaction, the results are just so much more powerful. And also, you know, this is true for comparison to competitors in the industry from the more internal perspective, such as investment in professional development, such as employee engagement, or even the diversity of workforce within the organizations. So as you can see, this slide alone, and again, in the interest of time, I didn't choose many more of those. Those indicate that the return on investment or return on expectation from having strong coaching cultures are very visible, very powerful. And again, pointing into building coaching cultures as one of the best decisions the organization can make, or frankly, the decision that the organization should not be neglecting making, and the sooner the better. We already said about those 3 modalities: external coach practitioner, internal coach practitioner, and managers and leaders using coaching skills. In our study, it was very obvious that when we asked the organizations how do they see the expansion of their coaching programs, the willingness and the plans, in fact, for building internal coach practitioners capabilities within organizations was extremely high. So it didn't mean that organizations were planning on completely foregoing using external coaches. There are absolutely great reasons why organizations need to use external coaches at times, but that focus on internal coaches and diligence in making sure that they got trained, making sure that they get some communities of practice, or maybe centers of excellence, that they can remain current so that they can support the internal coaching practices in the best way, was very, very valid and loud. So as you can see, 59% of the respondents said that they will be investing in expanding their internal coaching practices. I know that I just about exhausted my time, but I wanted to tell you what ICF is doing in this field, and these are resources that are all available to you. So I already mentioned the reports. They are available on our website, coachingfederation.org/coaching culture. ICF offers PRISM Award. It is an award for organizations that are utilizing coaching for supporting and furthering their strategic initiatives. And you can also find a lot about PRISM Award on our website. We have communities of practice for our members and non-members alike, quite frankly. And you can see there is executive, internal, team and work group coaching and human capital, or even government coaching, as many governments, frankly, around the globe are utilizing internal coaching practitioners to support ever-growing cadre of individuals working for and in government. So these are offerings for you as well. And finally, I'm extremely excited to bring to your attention that just a year ago, ICF underwent a major transformation, and we created new offerings within our family of organizations, including coaching in organizations family. And it is the group that is solely designed and developed to lead the global investment of coaching in organizations. And as you can see from this slide, the group was created to inspire and enable organizations by providing industry standards, continually develop their coaching capacity and capacity as a mindset, skill set, and ultimately integral part of their culture. The question I was asked by the organizers of this meeting was, what does ICF do? We just very recently released this set of core competencies for team coaching being very crucial and used more and more in organizations. We are working on the competencies or skills and capabilities of managers and leaders using coaching skills. That material should be available very soon, and we continue our digging deeper into coaching cultures in organizations and how it ultimately supports the growth and prosperity of the organizations and people working within. So I'll stop share right now. Thank you so much. I hope that was at least creating some context for the rest of us. And with that, Fatima, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much, Magdalena. That was very insightful, and you also managed to say so much in such a short time limit. I feel like we should acknowledge that.
Yeah, I talk fast, that's right.
Thank you. Yeah, but you've really driven home the fact that organizations need to look into building internal coaching cultures, because it's becoming such a necessity, especially now with millennials coming in and who are more aware that coaching is not just a remedial tool, it's the tool for growth and development. So organizations really need to start considering building these coaching cultures. Thank you, Magdalena. So now I would like to move on to our second segment, where our panelists will share their best practices of the initiatives that they've taken to support their employees' development and talent management through coaching practices in their organizations. So Ritu, would you like to start first?
Sure, thank you, Fatima. So good evening, everyone, one more time. It's actually a tough task to put down your 16 years journey into a few minutes. So I'll get straight to my job, and I hope that you find this useful. So we first tried coaching in Canon, with a leadership team in 2005. And at that time, coaching was still a little unheard of in India. And when we started coaching, the questions that came our way was, why me? And who else? And after some years, the questions changed to why not me, and when can my team undergo it, and when can I learn the skills of being a coach? Now, what made this happen was basically one single decision that we took principally, and that was to make it really safe and 100% coaching driven, not linked to career decision, and the sponsor of the coaching would not guide the goals or the outcomes. We said the coach would drive it. Now, as coaching and its impact over a period of few years got established, our CEO suggested, and I remember, Magdalena talking about, the top sponsorship. And here is our CEO who suggested that we should establish a coaching culture in our organization where people grow people, and not HR being the custodian of people development single-handedly. Now, when a CEO says that we want to establish a culture, let's say, of zero dishonesty or financial transformation or digital transformation, it's still easy. It will happen. But when he says coaching culture, it will not happen automatically, because it really needs a deeper level of understanding, acceptance, and people need to value it. So what we started doing was we started took our, as a first step, our leadership team for an offsite and to have a dialogue is creating an internal coaching culture relevant. Now, 100% said coaching is relevant. Everybody in Canon should go through it. They wanted to learn the skills of being a coach, but honestly, not everybody believed that it would work. There were fears about trusting an internal coach. In fact, just very recently, I did a survey on LinkedIn. How many of you trust an internal coach? 60% said yes, and rest said, 20% said maybe, 20% said no. So there was an aspect of trust. There was an aspect of, would it impact my career? Reputation management. People feel that maybe I'm not cut out for a coach. What if I, come out and it impacts my reputation? So we made it optional. And we also trained those people first, who had undergone coaching. And while we did training, to build coaching skills and coaching mindset, there were two other elements besides coaching skills. The second was process that needs to be established in an internal situation. And most importantly, we thought was preparing the environment. So once again, three things: preparing coaches, preparing the process, and preparing the environment. So, one of the lessons that we learned in preparing our coaches was that initially when we started our training, we gave the entire big bang training of many days at one go. But now what we do is we break it down into smaller sessions and we give them an appropriate time on their coaching journey. So it ensures that the knowledge is immediately applied, and also timelines of the, of their own coachings are kind of met, because they do something, what they learn, they come back, they do the next milestone, they achieve that, then they go move forward. And we also gave each coach a mentor for support during first 2 or 3 coaching assignments that they pick up, just to have a quality check also and to give them a sense of confidence. Practice sessions happens and things like that. The next is preparing the process. And here it is about establishing how would you do coach match, like making, what we did was cross-functional, as less familiarity as possible between the coach and the coachee, so that the stories don't impact them. Giving a choice to the coachee during chemistry meet. Some unwritten rules of how to manage the dynamics when there is no match. How would the reviews be done, and how would the goals be created? So we culled out that processes. But having said that, skills and processes were still relatively easier for us. The difficult one was preparing the environment. So here is an interesting one. In Japanese culture, there is a concept called nimawashi. The literal meaning of nimawashi is when you want to plant a tree, you have to prepare the soil around it for it to receive the tree and not die. So the coaching concept is really about preparing everybody who will be involved in the process. So we did a wide-scale coaching orientation sessions to help people understand what does coaching really mean, make it optional for them. We also prepared the managers, we also prepared the stakeholders on the boundaries, the do's and don'ts, etc. And one of the most important aspects here was the trust and safety issues. And we really worked very hard to make it happen. So we said process would be 100% coachee driven, no influence from managers, no judgment by senior folks or HR who would be a part of these review meets. We did not at all in these meetings focus on what was the coaching goal. The entire focus was, how did the coachee really make use of the opportunity? Did the coachee really open up and become vulnerable? What did the coach learn in the process? And those were the conversations that we were doing. And a huge emphasis, which is very important from an Indian cultural context, an internal coaching context that we placed upon, was the trust building. So the first few sessions, and we said, don't move forward till the time trust gets established. So a lot of self-disclosure, happened between the coach and the coachee to kind of gain that mutual trust. Of course, we would do regular quality check, continuous feedback, taking feedback from the coach, from the coachee. Actually, the quality starts improving pretty much after a coach has an experience of doing some 3 coachings. That's when we have seen a shift happening in the coaching skills. Until that time, they really need a bit more active support from the program managers. One interesting roadblock that we hit last year was when the lockdown happened, and people said virtual coaching won't work. And people were used to face-to-face. So we did a quick upskilling, we did process tweak, we said shorter sessions, more frequent meetings, we created some framework for them. In our experience, virtual coaching worked as well as physical coaching. And that's why after a year, our number of active coaches and coaches doubled in a way. So, right now in our company, we have about 65 plus coaches trained. We have about 200 plus people who have undergone coaching, in the last few years. We have measured impact. I will not talk about the numbers and the statistics. There's a lot of that. But what's really changed in our organization was, number one, conversations changed. Earlier people across the departments or divisions would talk about business agendas or work agendas, and now they were talking about developing each other's team members. So really, it led to better collaboration. There was absolute clarity. As people go up, they get sometimes a little less feedback, but there was absolute clarity on what the development agendas are, of people, and the same common understanding of the leadership team on an individual's development agendas. So it's really helping our leaders becoming better leaders also, the coaching process, and also learning the skill of influencing without using authority. Interestingly, we had a CEO change, which was very significant for us from the coaching perspective, because our erstwhile CEO was a huge sponsor of and promoter of coaching himself. And interestingly, coaching did not go away with him going. So we still have a huge demand. We have a queue up of coaches who wants to be coached. It's running really well without any top level sponsorship. It's something which has been good for business and good for people. So that's been our journey, in a nutshell. And I look forward to hearing from others as well.
Thank you, Ritu. That's so interesting. And I love what you said about going from in-person coaching to virtual coaching and how that really works for you, considering that's something that's very close to our hearts. Devashish, would you like to go next?
Sure, and thanks for sharing your insights, Magda and Ritu. I think quite similar. Well, it's been part of many coaching journeys, being a coach myself and organizations being coached and also, but probably I'll share the latest coaching experience that I have, which is my current organization. So I work for a company called Berkadia, and we're into this interesting phase about really transformation from a legacy financial services company to a technology-driven company. Now, we have been in the business for about 40 years. We are the largest loan services provider in the US. And now you are telling me that, what you have to, just forget about what you have done in the past, right? Now I want you to challenge status quo. Now I want you to take risks. And now I want you to have those difficult conversations. And you're all accountants, by the way, right? We know how to follow process. We know how to make 2 + 2 4 together. It was a big challenge for us. 2 things we had to do was to really, of course, there is a technology transformation that had to happen, because we are moving from really a purebred financial services company to a fintech company. But more than that, it was an absorption of a people culture. Because as we all know that if people do not change, the transformation would not happen. It's as simple as that. So very interesting journey, and a lot of learnings from there started about 4 years back. My learning has been that, and we have worked with, initially when we set up the coaching culture, we actually had worked with external coaches, organizations who helped us build it. To be honest, we did a deep dive and understood that we don't have the capability at that point of time to do it ourselves, right? We had to be humble enough to accept that we don't do it well. We do not have the coaching culture. We would seek help. My first learning, and it has been, I think that's I believe is the most important thing for such initiatives to be successful, is that your top leadership should believe in it. Absolutely important, right? Fortunately, I had my managing director, site director, who is very accomplished in his own right. He's very senior, and he's a great coach himself. But he's the first one who put his hand up and said, what, I need coaching, and really meant it. So he had to first find a good coach for him. and people could see that he was totally vulnerable. He could accept, what he was not doing right, and people could see the change in him. And after that, it becomes a lot more easier for people to buy to that. Somebody like so senior is doing it, then we should also do it. And then our next attempt is to make sure that the people under him, right, people at a CXO level, they also get to the habit of coaching. We also made sure that about 70% of them are actually already certified. Well, coaching is a lot about your personal style, your own preferences, how you do it. But I personally believe in the grammar of coaching. And I believe that you don't have to follow the grammar all the time, but you can deviate from the grammar as long as you know the grammar, right? So I think that has been, we have now a group of internal coaches also at top positions, plus the external coaches you are working with. So we have like a team of coaches, internal and external. That is something that is very important to have. What we have done apart from that is that we saw that coaching is, and that is something in my learning, is that coaching is not only important, relevant for top leadership, everybody needs to be coached. And I understood that, and there was something my learning personally. We started from ground up, and Ritu talked about conversations getting better. I realized it much later, that when I had built up a culture of, my frontline managers, supervisors, having those coaching conversations, the focus really moved from a performance management to a development conversation. And that has been a game changer for us, right? And that has really changed the way you build a culture that way. Two more things I think has been my learning as well about, and in this journey has been, how do I define the role of a coach? What does he bring in? How do I know that the coach has been successful or not being successful? And now sometimes I struggle with it. And Gauri talked about the ROI about it. How do I know that, the coach is really making a change or building in a change? The way I see it from my experience of so many years is that for me, the coach's job is to really make the other person become self-aware, and full stop, right? I do not accept that somebody, a top leader, because of a conversation or a series of conversations, suddenly starts having those difficult conversations or managing conflicts better. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, I think as long as the leader is aware that because he's not managing the conflicts better, what are the repercussions? What is the result of that? If coach can make the person self-aware, I think my job is done. So one thing that I always said when I talk to my business leaders, and they want to see, sometimes I won't say that they're unreasonable. They want to see results. Can I see this person really improving? I tell, what, as long as the person is aware that he's making mistakes, what are the results of that? I'm happy with the coach. So that has been one of my learnings. The second learning, and I have these conversations, I think, have been having it as an HR head for a long time about, again, ROI, right? What is that? And probably I'll sit with Gauri to understand about how do we measure it. But I love the word that Gauri used when she was introducing herself about the word called impact. The way I see ROI is not return of investment, but return of impact. My argument with my business leaders is that when they invest in their business into something, suppose my business head wants to invest in a new geography or a new business, right? A new product line, all right? When that happens, you first invest a lot of money upfront. And it might take about 5 years to 10 years to break even impact. Sometimes you don't even break even, right? So my submission to them is always that you would not look at it as a long term. You would not see that change immediately. In fact, if you see the change, sometimes it is not sustainable. It's like a rubber band, you stretch it and people just start behaving and then they come back to their normal way. So I say that, see the impact over a period of time and not really get too much bothered about the dollars that you invest, because it takes a long time to even break even in your investment that you do on businesses. So same thing happens with coaching. And what has happened in those discussions is that people, most of the times, I won't say I've been successful all the time to convince all my leaders, but most of the time they have seen the benefit of doing it over a period of time and seen the benefits of coaching, of having a different culture altogether, of having a sustainable coaching and development culture. So those have been some of my experiences, and happy to share more in the course of today's discussion today and learn more.
Thank you, Devashish. I think you've dropped some very insightful gems. You know, when you were talking about going from productivity to focusing on development, or the grammar of coaching, or even the return of impact, is something I think a lot of organizations struggle with. Gauri, would you like to go next?
Sure. Thank you very much. And after all the lovely pearls of wisdom that Magda, Ritu, and Dev have shared, I'm excited to talk to you a little about my experience of coaching and the initiatives that we've taken so far. So I represent an organization called as CDK Global, and we are in the automobile retail space. So this is my 5th year of association with the organization, and by far, out of my 18 years, this is the longest tenure that I have invested in this organization, primarily because it keeps us excited, right? And it keeps us giving an opportunity to really create impact, right? So I'm going to be talking a little about the initiatives that we've taken, the philosophy around coaching, some of the ways in which we have created the coaching culture, and lastly, a little around the impact that we've been able to, subjectively and objectively see in this due course. So starting with initiatives, right? So these are taken at an organization level. Obviously, the intention is to be able to support employees across the pipeline. The scenario at hand, with CDK Global is that, we have an average employee age of about 29. So, most employees are the millennials who are, with us. We are into, and the problem statement at hand is to be able to really develop future skills for our employees and really modernize some of our legacy products that we have in the automobile space. That being said, integrating coaching in the DNA of the organization has been something that we've been working on for the last 5 years, right? Now, we've made an effort to create a culture of coaching, and the key to that was we identified that creating a pool of managers who were coaches, they can be role models, right? They can be supporters and sustaining, and they are the sustainers of the coaching mindset. Because clearly, one program, there is no magic wand, right? That the transformation will happen. So we're talking about sustenance, and for sustenance, we really baked in a lot of internal skill. So our leaders really stood up and, kind of apart from their day job, they've signed up for being coaches, being really those anchors who are going to be responsible for sustaining this initiative. The efficacy of all of this, or the result of all of this, is that we are certified on the Great Places to Work twice in a row now. And our employee experience scores, both internally and also externally, are topping the charts in the 5 years that we've been. And these employee scores are primarily, I'm referring to the growth and career options that employees believe that they are getting within the organization. And for the average age that I did say, for them to be able to, for them to be able to talk about that they are getting adequate opportunities and adequate learning and growth is happening, that in itself is a testimony, friends. So I'm going to talk a little about the philosophy associated with the coaching initiatives in the organization. So we have signed up for, leveraging on our intellectual internal capital. What that means is, like I said, we have identified a team of coaches who are certified, and they are internally, really holding the flags up and, responsible for this initiative. We obviously balance this entire initiative with having a team of external coaches who started top, right? Who started from the top, and then we went through the pipeline. So be it our managing director himself and his team, they were the first ones to really go through the coaching program, like Dave was sharing, right? For them to be able to experience coaching one-on-one and group both. And then we started looking at what has been the effectiveness of these sessions. How has that culminated to the business strategy? How has that, kind of getting into the DNA of their working styles, right? So that was the first thing that we started, and that was the philosophy. Now I'm going to talk to you a little more about how did we make this happen. So we've taken very small steps. The first one, which really took us a while to get to, was linking the purpose and the results of the coaching with business. So that's how we started. Really, each business has an organizational health scorecard. And that is where we have all forms of metrics, like how often do you have access to a coach? How often have you realized the individual development plan that you have, created for yourself? So along with all the other metrics, like retention or the number of promotions happening, the rate of absenteeism, productivity, these are typically the standard metrics that definitely get into the scorecard. But apart from that, some of these aspects, where individuals really get an opportunity to talk about what is their experience around coaching, their experience around their development, what is the investment that the organization is making in their development. These are the aspects that we really evaluated and created scorecards. The second piece was, again, that was another milestone, which was that coaching is now seen as everyone's business, right? Every single individual today is signed up. Obviously, there are outliers, right? But they're more or less signed up with the fact that they will have an opportunity to get coached, and they also have an opportunity to coach. One of the initiatives, which was, in my opinion, really, a very innovative one, was reverse coaching. We've heard of reverse mentoring, but this was a very innovative approach that we took, where the senior leaders really opened up, right? And they said, let's hear it from our new employees, our individual contributors. Let them come and speak with us. Let them come and talk to us about where we are going, what is the organization signing up for, and what's their experience. They signed up for having these individuals as their coaches. Now that talks volumes about the vulnerability that Dave was talking about, right? So those were a couple of practices that we, or some of the how that we had put together. We'll talk about some of the practices that we have used, and I think there is going to be a little bit of an overlap between what the speakers have said so far, but really the coachee being accountable for the entire coaching journey. They feeling the entire safety aspect around it. They're signing up for non-disclosure agreement. That gives them a psychological safety to really open up and have conversations with coaches. They know that the discussions that they are having will not get reflected in the performance management. And that, I think, it has really, opened up the gates for people to experience coaching. The other thing that we've done is at various, employee life cycle, around the employee life cycle, at various stages, we've identified different types of coaching. So for our entry-level individuals, there is a buddy system. Now, buddy is someone who's really tenured in the organization, and having conversations with the buddy really, helps the new employee assimilate in the organization at a fast pace. Very critical in today's time when we all are working, remotely. So having a buddy is kind of really, helped individuals assimilate in the culture of the new organization, right? So that's the first one. The second one is obviously for our new leaders. We have a new leaders assimilation program where, again, coaching becomes very critical. And this is where the new leader who's joining us gets coached for the current role that they have signed up for. Similarly, there are future, potential-based coaching where an individual gets assessed for his or her next role, and as a part of the assessment, they get access to a coach. So, basically what I'm trying to say is across the various stages in the pipeline, individuals do have access to coaching. So that's basically, around the holistic approach that we've signed up for coaching. I'd like to definitely call out about our succession planning initiative. And this is, an initiative where we know our top talent definitely gets access. They go through an assessment center, they go through a development center. That's facilitated externally. But all the coaching that happens with a bunch of our internal leaders who are absolutely excited to contribute in someone's life. That's the overall practices that we have. And I'd just like to talk a little about the impact before I hand it over back to Fatima. And the impact really, folks, has been, Magda really talked a lot about, the very, very powerful matrix there, but we've really seen enhanced retention, improved work performance, relationships really getting transformed, very effective and strong relations getting established with stakeholders across the globe, where people really get an opportunity to make very powerful impact. Those are a couple of metrics that we have been able to observe. Also, we ran a leadership development program internally where coaching was an integral component. And we did a yellow belt project on that particular initiative. And the outcome of that particular program was that it was a Times Award winner, where we really topped the charts in terms of the impact that we saw from a leadership development. So that's a little from my end, and happy to hear your views. Over to you, Fatima.
Thank you, Gauri, especially for sharing the impact, because that's so important when people are considering building internal coaching cultures. You want to see evidence and how are people benefiting from that. So thank you for sharing that. Shatranjay, over to you. You're on mute.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Fatima. And just before this call, 1 hour before that, I was reflecting in terms of what has been my experience in coaching, and can I sort of scribble it somewhere? And I did try to attempt that, and I see in all the panelists a lot of echo in what we have done different journeys, but I think some of these journeys are very, very similar, and that is what I'll talk about, because most of these themes, and I was surprised. I was listening to Magda, Ritu, Gauri, and Debashish, is that our experiences have a good amount of commonalities. And advantage of being in the last is that sort of I can sum this up, and that's what when I look at what I scribbled, and I also try to put that on a PowerPoint, looking at the structure of this sort of interaction. So I hope that is visible. So let me use that. It's not I don't have a deck. I just have one thing that I scribbled. I couldn't put my diary into this. So. That's why I did it before this, webinar, where we're reflecting and trying to sum up. It's a journey. What I've realized is that, and I'll tell you, in 2005, I was with Coca-Cola making a mentoring program. And everything was that, these things don't work. It's useless to make a mentoring program because, these things don't work. You can have that on paper, but really does it work? And now we are 2021, which coaching is a powerful weapon. And I think people talk about mentoring, but I would say that people more talk about coaching than mentoring, and almost these words have reversed. And I've seen that, in the course of this conversation. And I would definitely and when I started, so let me also share my own personal journey on this area, is that when I started working in consulting side, especially in the Towers and Conferry Hay Group work that I did, there I was working in a lot of development journeys. And what I realized is that no development journey is complete without coaching. And that's where actually started hitting me, Then I realized, this is something which has last 5-6 years has completely landscape changed. I think Magda talked about it. Many of you talked about it. So this has become a very acceptable and potent force in any leadership development journey. And that's what I have also seen. So overall, my reflections are here. What I see is that in any organization, coaching is a journey. And I think in my organization and in my client organization, when I was consultant in Conferry, is that sometimes you make progress in coaching and, then you'll have 2-3 years of gap and you'll come back, previous stage and you'll have to restart it. So you don't have to be, disheartened by that and demotivated by that. I've seen many organizations, and I'll talk about GMR Group. So just to introduce GMR Group to people here, is that GMR Group, we have a strong presence in airports, and we have a very strong presence in energy and highways, so essentially infrastructure group, but we have a very good portfolio of technology businesses. Maybe probably, you may not be knowing. So right now we are an infrastructure company, we are a technology company, and we are, sort of almost seem like a two ends of a spectrum. And that's where I would say that group has had a good stint with coaching. It was fairly successful. And then, coaching took a back seat, and now we are trying to, make it another established process. So every company, every group goes through its own journey. You have to keep putting energy into it. So that's what I say. So that's the first point that I will keep repeating, and that has been my journey. So you don't have to, and in fact, the coaching also has been, the entire coaching process, as Magda was saying, has gone through a journey. From a punitive coaching, okay, I'm being coached, something wrong with me, so I want to be coached. Why don't you invest in my coaching? So it has been a journey in that area also in organizations as well. Now, in my, both at GMR and in my client work with a lot of technology organizations and infra companies, what I've seen is that you have to use coaching in something already which is established. If you want to create a new process, HR is already bogged down like 10 process, you add one more, and the managers will say, okay, HR always launches initiatives. This is what HR people are very free and they'll launch initiatives. So you will have to, at least that's my experience, that you'll have to put it on something very established. So in normally what I've done is that, making it a part of leadership development journeys, career self-development journeys, 360 process or internal talent program. It has to fit somewhere so that it doesn't seem like a new thing started. So something is already there. Maybe probably you have to fit it. So make that effective. So that's my, especially I would say, 3-4 years of developing strong leadership development journeys across a range of companies. What I've seen is that no leadership journey is complete without coaching. And that is where there is a great utility of coaching. Third, my learning has been both in GMR and outside GMR is that you will have to really position coaching because it can raise a lot of questions, why coaching and all of that. And positioning, I think I hear a lot of panelists, and I can recall even Devashish was saying is that coaching to me and in all the journeys that I have been designing and I've been seeing is that it's really a great part of self-awareness. And that is where you can, position coaching, and then it takes off from there. No journey of learning, of capability, of leadership is without self-awareness. And I see that as a very great positioning of coaching, and to really capture the imagination. And what I've also seen is that it helps to have an anchor of a personality psychometry, and that helps the organization. And whatever I've used, and essentially development-oriented personality psychometry, career anchor, resilience psychometric, AQ, OPQ, whatever you take, you can take. Some of these psychometric I've used previously with my client, and here in GMR we are using it. But you have to have some anchor for it to go deeper, and you can have emotional intelligence. So that's the second part that I will say. And coaches need support because even coaches, even if you have external or internal coaches, they need some structure. Obviously, coaching is a fluid process, but some structure is needed. And normally, I would say a strong personality psychometry, which is focused on agility, on career, etc., is a good anchor. So that's my third learning. Obviously, much has been said about internal, external coaches. I'll not go there. I would say that it's a good mix. You don't have to have a fixed mindset. You walk the journey. Chemistry is important. Only one thing which is very critical, and that I'm right now dealing with that in my own company in GMR, is that what is in it for internal coaches? Why would an internal coach spend this time? You want a CEO or a CXO to be a coach. They already have 10 hours of workday. They don't have energy, etc., to put 11th hour of workday. So we have to very carefully think about what is in it for me. We are thinking in the direction, we are trying to build that. And one of them is that coaches, while they are coaching, they learn themselves and they develop themselves. So that is one angle that we are seeing. And I see ICF as a good partner there, accrediting coaches for them to be interested, so they realize what is it for them. And that's important to build that. And obviously, the last point is that there has been a continuous debate, where we see, how should we start? Should be one-on-one or cohort? And there is no answer to this. I would say that it has to be a good mix of one-on-one and cohort. And you have to look at really, how much energy, time, etc. you have, and where you are in a journey. Maybe you can start with both and see the effectiveness and see what works for you. So essentially, these have been my learning, and these are not very unique. I think I hear everybody saying similar stuff. So it's almost like me summing this up, but there are a lot more beyond this slide. But if I were to summarize what I wanted to speak and what I wanted to share with all of you, and at this point, and obviously everybody has spoken, and there is a unique angle to all of these points and unique dimension. But and as we go progress in this webinar, we'll learn more. So thank you everybody. Thank you, Fatima.
Thank you, Shatranjay. You may think that it's everyone said the same thing, but I think it only drives home the fact that when you're building internal coaching cultures, you face similar problems. Everyone has to go through the similar steps to be able to successfully do it. Thank you. So now we will move on to our next segment, and we'd like to spend 15 minutes hearing from all of our panelists why you think that companies should be building internal coaching cultures. Magdalena, would you like to start?
Thank you, and really, I'm quite impressed and inspired by all the stories that my colleagues share here. So this is really great, and I think pointing to the importance of having coaching cultures. I think each and every one of us did say that it is bringing a better environment for the employees. It's building a different level of loyalty for the organization. It's developing people, which I think the job of every manager is to develop people to eventually replace them or go somewhere where they can really make a difference. And coaching cultures seem to be also producing results for either stakeholders or the end user of the product or service that the organization is utilizing. And I know that we are focusing a little bit more on internal coaching. I saw some questions around why internal versus external. It was very nice to show that comparison. In fact, ICF, I presented on that subject before, when it is appropriate to do internal, when this is better to do external. There are so many nuances and intricacies, and then of course the characteristics of the organization itself. So, but that's a really important topic, and especially from the perspective of confidentiality and ethics. So, but that's a altogether different conversation, right? But I think that what we hear nowadays, the war on talent, right? We're hearing that still lasting impact of the pandemic, and even before the famous or infamous VUCA times, that calls for new type of leadership, that calls also for different type of better understanding of why people, and especially younger ones, millennials, are joining organizations and be able to respond to it in a sustainable, systemic, and lasting way. My colleagues, Deb, especially you, talk about self-awareness. Well, yeah, this is exactly what is being said about leaders nowadays. They need to be self-aware first and foremost. And coaching, again, is one of the best modalities to help with that self-awareness. But there is also something about self-awareness of the system. I know there were some questions about cohort versus one-on-one. Again, it's not one or the other. It's very coaching, yes, but again, the fact that the tenor of a conversation in the organization moves from profit alone or output alone to growth, development, moving together, and not forgetting about the social progress aspect of it, is something that makes the employer, I think, so much more attractive, and that's what we want. We want to recruit and we want to retain, right? So coaching, and especially many of you talk about it, available throughout the enterprise. That's a really winning proposition. That coaching culture to really be true, it needs to be available to those who want to access it no matter where. And another little question I think I saw in a Q&A was, or maybe that was something that we talked about before. So why organizations should build internal coaching practices? Some of you did talk even about developing a training programs to train internal cadre. We at ICF, in fact, accredit some of this training programs specifically for organizations that build their internal cadre. It is partly to scale, but it is really to reflect the culture of the organization in the training and preparation for internal coaches. So as we said, I think that anymore that the discussion is not if, but when, and the sooner the better, because the return on expectation, on impact, on investment are undeniable.
Thank you, Magdalena. Gauri, would you like to go next?
Fatima, sorry, I'm getting a little bit of a network lag here. Can you please repeat?
I asked if you would like to go next and help us understand why companies should build internal coaching cultures.
Absolutely, thanks. Just let me know if I'm audible, please.
You are.
Right, great. Yeah, so I think we've spoken about this, right? And obviously there are nuances associated with trying to find a balance between internal and external, but I think one that I already spoke about is it's more sustainable, right? And second is there's this entire safety net that gets created when there is this, a team of internal coaches. There is a team who's standing by all of us to be able to sustain these initiatives. So it gets, involved in the vocabulary and into the DNA of the organization. So no tangible aspects there, but I think a lot of intangible benefits around having internal coaches, and then it becomes a part of the culture of the organization. So those were a couple of benefits that I would advocate for when it comes to having internal coaches.
Thank you. Shatranjay, we'd like to hear from you as well.
I would say that you have to at some stage have internal coaches. You can't really depend on all 100% external coaches. That's not feasible. Let's see. If you're a large company, there has to be some. So obviously you can't start with that. You have to see where to start the journey. Maybe you can start the journey with external coaches and slowly build internal coaches. So I really see is that is there, can you really not have internal coaches? Obviously, no. Whether you have an internal coaches as a part of structured program, that is a really question, because all the leaders and managers are expected to be coach. So whether you count them as coach or not coach, they are expected to be coach. All the CEOs, CXOs, what is their job if they are not a coach? So definitely you have to build the culture. So what kind of culture you can have? You can have a very task-oriented performance culture, or you can have a coaching-oriented performance culture. I would say that in today's days and age, definitely task-oriented performance culture is not going to work. So you have to move to a coaching-oriented performance culture, and that is where you need to have internal coaches. I think the real question is that whether internal coaches, quote unquote, should be called, should be a part of structured process or not. There is no one answer to that. I would say that you don't have to make a large halla about that, isn't it? You don't have to make a big noise about that. You have to do a small initiative to build internal coaches. So you do something to get people interested in coaching. You do something to help them in a performance process. You get something to help in a leadership journey, and that's where you build multiple initiatives, and that's where it's all come together. I would say that whether having a big program on developing internal coaches is going to succeed, or whether whether small nudges to develop coaching culture is going to succeed, I will go on the nudge side. And even in in my work as a consultant in Conferry, what I realized is that it was nudges which were working better rather than a big program and big banner around it. And that's how it's going to work. It's already working. It's already, every CEO, CXO is a coach. Whether we brand him as a coach or not, it's a material. Definitely, we need to get him interested. I think that is what the plan is, and that's what our job is. That's what we are in these roles. So I would like to conclude by that.
Thank you. Devashish, would you like to go next?
Sure, and I'll keep it short also, because I think for the way internal coaching helps is 2-3 things that have always comes to my mind is that one, if we talk about any training programs, we speak about it being sustainable and self-directed, right? These are 2 things that is very, very important. What coaching does is that it helps. So the accountability of learning shifts to the learner. That is very important. It is my job to learn, right? It is not somebody else's job. No coach or no trainer can make me learn. In a coaching culture, right, the accountability shifts to that employee, to me, because the self-awareness again gets developed. That I believe is very important part of when you build up an internal coaching culture. When I have internal coaches, one more thing that I've seen benefit me is that they understand the culture of the company very, very well, right? Vis-a-vis somebody who is coming from outside, and nothing against them. It takes time for them, of course, but they can still get into understand our culture, what our culture is. But when an internal coach is coaching somebody, they can weave in the aspects of the culture and then bring those elements and layers of the culture into the coaching discussions. Because culture is, there's nothing right or wrong of cultures of organizations. I think everybody has their own cultures. How do you bring that elements in? What kind of examples do you share? What kind of stories you share of your own organizations, which an external coach might not be able to share so easily? That becomes very, very important. One more important thing is I think internal coaches are more accessible, if you will. They are, sometimes they can play the part of a mentor as well. If you're confused about something, just just bounce your ideas off that person. Right or wrong doesn't matter. So which an external coach can be difficult at times, sometimes, right? Last but not the least, and I don't believe in that so much, but my CFO believes in that. Internal coaches are a little more affordable than external coaches. Sometimes, it helps you to sell the programs well. Of course, I would always keep a mix of internal versus external, and that's a battle I always fight with my CFO. But I think those are the things that really helps me and helps having an internal coaching culture.
Thank you. Ritu, please.
All right, so 2 quick things I'll share. So I was hearing a very interesting quote a few days back. It said that the pace of change happening, nowadays has never been as fast as it has been in the past, and it will never be as slow in the future. So, if the rate of change externally is higher than the rate of change internally in people, then we'll die. We won't really survive. So, of course, coaching is important. Now, what happens in organization is that, we believe that the leadership matters, and of course it does. But it's not the top 2 or 3 decision that happens, big decision that happens that takes a company forward. Of course, they're important. But what really takes a company forward are those 1,000 small decisions that happen every day by people in the company. So it's not just the top which drives the company, it's also the middle and the junior that drives the company and takes them forward. Now, if we were to do coaching only externally, is it really affordable and sustainable to do it for everybody in the company? No, it's just very similar to what Devashish said. It's just not sustainable. But if you do it internally, it's available to all. It's a lot more cost effective, and it's more accessible to people, and it builds a really nice culture of collaboration, which is irreplaceable. So, we also make leaders at all levels. So that's my, 2 thoughts on, benefits of internal coaching.
Thank you. Thank you to all our panelists for sharing all your insights.